Welches, and welcome to Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. Sorry I'm a little late, but you know how it goes. Sometimes, unlike Uncle Joe, who's moving kind of slow at the junction, Bronk is with me. Hi, Bronk.
Petticoat Junction.
Yeah, that's right. They were, he was a pimp.
Was that after Green Acres or before Green Acres? It was like all on Saturday night. And
it was before and during.
Green Acres.
Yeah, Uncle Joe's a pimp, and then the three young girls were hoes, and yeah, that's just kind of the way that played out for whatever reason. Got a few things to talk about today. The one thing that is going to be a lot of talk about what the Browns need to do to shore up their defense with the announcement of Jim Schwartz weeks ago as being the new defensive coordinator. And there was a nice article about Anthony Walker Jr., who, he tore a quad muscle, which is a nasty, nasty thing. And in his free agent year, a 27-year-old player with a lot of good experience. And I think the Browns would make a mistake if they don't re-sign this player. Linebackers are important to this defensive scheme that Jim Schwartz is bringing to Cleveland. Very important. And, we got so many guys coming off of injuries from last year at the linebacker position. Taki and, Anthony Walker Jr. and
JOK. And
yeah, that's right, JOK. I mean, it was
Jacob Phillips, I think.
Jacob Phillips. I mean, it was just an incredibly bad run at the position.
God,
and now to find out, that's such an important position for the new defensive coordinator. And you're not going to be able to draft linebackers who are going to hop right into this system. You're going to need some people with some experience who understand what they need to do. And the thing that's interesting is the linebackers who have fared the best in this scheme that Schwartz runs are not the big, bulky guys, but they're kind of the 235 to 245 pound linebackers who are really a little bit brainier and physical and are good straight line, get into the backfield kind of guys. And that's going to make it a little bit harder. I don't think I want to see us drafting linebackers and putting rookie linebackers on the field. We're just going to have to ride with the scheme being better and hoping that we get better results with some of the players that we already have. That being said, there's an inaccuracy in an article that I was reading implying that there is much more focus on the pass rush with this particular defensive scheme. And that's not true. If you take a look what happened in the year after Jim Schwartz left teams, and in the case of Philadelphia, they went from 49 to 70 sacks.
Wow.
The year after he left. This is not a wild blitzing kind of scheme. This is get isolation for your good defensive end pass rusher and kind of spread and stretch everything out and let your linebackers fill in the holes. That's what this is. I don't see this as being a big let's sack the quarterback defense. But then again, the defense that we had last year was far from that as well. The idea is you want to get another defensive end who could be a bookend with Myles Garrett. But honestly, we don't have that person right now. And so the other thing is using defensive tackles to get pressure up the middle and get into the backfield. It's been years, quite honestly, that I've seen the Browns linebackers or a defensive lineman actually in the backfield. I think the last guy I saw who would get in there was the guy. Oh,
we
God,
had some crazy guy about 3 years ago who flashed like in preseason, and then he played a few games and he would get in and make a play or two, and then he left. I can't remember his name.
yeah. I mean, there are a lot of guys who only have one technique in a 3-technique league, and it's really, what I'm trying to remember was the defensive interior lineman who went to Cincinnati.
Agba?
No.
Agba,
Agba, I think, went to Detroit, if I recall correctly. The guy who ended up going to Cincinnati. He's not with Cincinnati now, and he's available again. Damn it. Somebody in the chat room try to help me out here.
Where's Rick May when we need him? He'll figure it out.
So at any rate, he played defensive tackle a couple of years ago for the Browns. In his free agency, he went to Cincinnati, and then now he's somewhere. He played last year with somebody else. Ogunjobi.
Ogunjobi.
Yeah, thank you.
Ogunjobi.
Yeah. Thank you, Christopher. There you go. Virtual coffee mug, even though we misspelled it. Virtual coffee mug for Christopher Milton Sr. Way to go, my man.
I don't think Ogunjobi can spell Ogunjobi.
Nah, I can't even pronounce Ogunjobi. I was just looking for help.
When you said who was the last guy you can remember going to the backfield, I was going to say Michael Dean Perry.
No, there were a few, but as far as defensive actual interior linemen, there haven't been many, and we need to get that kind of penetration, not to sack quarterbacks, but to stop running game. And we just haven't been good at that.
I mean, when we were growing up, we had Walter Johnson and Jerry fucking Shirk, man.
That's right.
And we used to have a defensive line that was just as good as our offensive line was. And you know what? We were actually in the playoffs and in championship games and shit. And it was because we had a good offensive line and a good defensive line at the same fucking time. So there you have it.
Yeah, that was then. This is now. And the Browns are playing. I mean, it's imperative when you're playing against guys like Joe Burrow.
Shrek.
Shrek the quarterback. When you're playing against players like this and against Josh Allen in your conference and all that, you're going to focus, and not to mention Patrick Mahomes. You're gonna wind up focusing on that. But we have given up so much easy ground.
What have I always known about? We can have 1 or 2 good plays a series, but you need 3 plays. You need a good first down play, second down play, and a good third down play. How many times do we give up shit plays on second down or third down after we had done a decent play the play before? It was unbelievable.
Well, there's a lot of things that are different. I mean, more and more going for fourth downs, but teams who have play callers and play design that actually make sense playing 4-down football as opposed to Kevin Stefanski and his double reverse Statue of Liberty plays. The issue is you're not just three and out isn't a certainty when you have teams that have the weapons and the speed outside and have, I mean, I don't want to hear about our tight ends. I don't want to hear about that. I mean, Travis Kelce, that's a tight end. All right. A guy who can consistently get open and will catch everything that's thrown at him. That's a rugged, dependable tight end. And David Njoku ain't that.
At some point, the NFL defenses need a person with a body type of a tight end that can match up against tight ends, like body for body. But there isn't a natural position for that. You'd have to have like a really agile defensive end to do that or something. But at some point, this will get figured out. This era of these Kelseys and these the guy on Baltimore and all these tight ends running amok will come to an end at some point when somebody figures that out. Hopefully, it'll be Jim Schwartz.
Well, the other thing that I found really interesting is the quandary that the Browns will be in because of Emerson, the rookie, that he actually showed physicality.
Yeah, he was the best quarterback. We used the best secondary guy all year, I think.
But this poses a problem for Newsome, who wants to play outside and is better outside than he is inside. And the Browns organization, like the size and the physicality of Emerson, and you have a distressed Newsome who doesn't want to play in the slot. And this is going to be a huge issue because when you go into nickel, you're, if you're looking at if you're looking in the regular end of things of, three cornerbacks and you are, you have a choice. Yeah, and I agree that Greedy Williams won't be there, but Greedy Williams isn't even in the equation. This is Greg Newsome and a high fucking draft pick.
Oh God, yeah. But he's a smart guy. He went to Northwestern. Maybe he'll be able to figure it out,
He doesn't want to play there.
Yeah,
I mean, flat out came out in the press.
Do a lot of things, yeah. I mean,
well, but the question is, where are players difference makers? And what we don't have and never have had in recent years are guys who can intercept passes, guys who, I like the job Emerson did because he was going to get targeted because he was a rookie, and I like his wingspan.
Yeah.
And people say, well, he intercepted that one pass, took it out of the guy's hands and ran it in for a touchdown. It's like, yeah, that's great. But the bottom line is it's more about percentage completions against targets and what a cornerback is able to do percentage-wise. And I don't care about the goddamn numerical analytics things. Are they throwing at you intentionally because they know that percentages are with them? I mean, believe me, they analyze everything.
Yeah.
And it's not a coincidence where the ball gets thrown in this 4-down type of football that's being played. And for the Browns, the middle of the field, a fucking problem. I mean, you get spread out and, I'm not even sure what the linebackers were supposed to be doing in the defensive scheme from the last 2 years. Because they never even talked about. The only time they talked about linebackers was when each one went down with a season-ending injury.
Correct.
But there was never anyone at all. And I remember we got rid of Mack Wilson. Yeah. And he was supposed to be a guy who was supposed to really be a hunt and seek kind of guy.
Alabama.
Yep. And that just didn't pan out at all. Taki was a little slow coming around, but was doing better. And then all of a sudden he got hurt. And Anthony Walker coming out of Indianapolis is a guy who is a glue player. But as far as the culture of the team is concerned, a guy who is a really solid teammate and who is accountable. He also had an 82 rating number in this ridiculously bad defense.
I mean, so many times the play would be over and our linebackers would be just standing around 5 yards within where the ball was watching it. They didn't make the tackles. I mean, it wasn't them.
Well, I mean, coverage becomes important, but the slot and playing zone, I thought, and I was, I guess, incorrect, but I thought that the reason we drafted Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome is that we wanted island cornerbacks.
Yeah, and we didn't use them that way.
Right. I mean, that was the impression I got. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not right about a whole hell of a lot, but that's what those players' roles were. And Emerson is also a guy who, I'm not going to tell you that Emerson was looked upon as going to be a star in the NFL, but the Browns liked his size, and they especially raved about his wingspan. And so that, when you're playing against guys like Jamar Chase and people of that ilk who are likely to go up and above the other guys, and honestly, Denzel Ward has never really played like a great island cornerback.
No, not really. And he keeps getting his head in the way of other people's knee and getting concussions every month. So,
but the question is this because the players aren't what we thought they were, or is it because the scheme just was constant? What do I always say? You're trying to confuse the opponent, and you end up confusing your own players. Yeah. We looked more confused than our opponents did. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, they knew our plays better than we did. It was embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah, and Rubber City brings up another point, and I do want to say something to address this comment that Andy Reid was scheming guys open and Kevin Stefanski throws Hail Marys on 4th and 1. What that told me more than anything else is that Kevin Stefanski was absolutely convinced that in a regular 3rd and 7 or whatever you'd have, that we had no long ball threat, no long ball capability, and that the only way that was going to happen, the big, chunk play, was if he tricked somebody into it on a 4th and short.
That's shameful,
and would really bite on it. Well, but it's shameful not only from the fact that the coach is in that situation. I mean, let's be honest. The front office is telling the coach, you got to have X% of these chunk plays. That's what the analytics says. And it's like, well, my guys don't run down the field fast enough. Yeah. And it's like, well, too bad. You got to do it. And so it's 4th and 1, and that's when he's going to make the play, especially if he can bring a cold quarterback like Jacoby Brissett into the game and take Deshaun Watson out and try to fool him that way. I mean, it got ridiculous.
Who
it really
were we
did.
Playing when that
I put it out of my mind, but I can't forget plays like that. It's just like
the worst play of the year. That was, and it wasn't Brissett's fault at all. It was not his fault. But God, that was horrible. Maybe Rick Mayo remember who we were playing.
Yeah. Now, Christopher, you're not going to see bigger linebackers because the system calls for faster, good hitting hole pluggers. Because in today's game, a linebacker is an extension of a safety in size because the game has become so damn fast. It's a lot like the NBA. And back in the day, you got to have playmaker, got to have a point guard, and it doesn't matter. The point guards of the past, you look at them and it was like they knew how to pass. They knew how to run and get the team lined up in the right offensive, play and all of that. Now you got fucking Giannis, who's 6'11", going up and down the floor with the ball.
You got Evan Mobley going up and down the floor.
Yeah, it's a completely different world. And I think that the changes in offensive football in the NFL have dictated that the Mike Singletaries of the world, those guys, or maybe even better, the Dick Butkuses of the world, going to another generation, or the Chip Banks, or the, who's at least was athletic, but the guys who are like the real hard-nosed people. That's not what we're,
Junior Seau's.
Yeah, you got to be able. He could run though. I mean, you got to be able to cover not only a little side to side to prevent check down passes. You've got to get into the backfield on the run, and you've got to be quick enough to get through the hole that wide 9 is giving you, and that's what that's going to be. I wanted to say something before I forget. The dirtiest player in football history died. Conrad Dobler was only 72.
Yeah.
And at 72, he was so crippled by the time he was 57, you don't want to know. But yeah, another example of a truncated lifespan that the NFL would never compensate a guy for. But yeah, Conrad Dobler, famous for poking people in the eyes and spitting on them.
And biting them and everything.
Yeah, he was, that's the guy Dan Deerdorf used to talk about all the time. And when he was announcer, he was a teammate of Dan Deerdorf on the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals.
And Dan Deerdorf couldn't fucking walk either. So,
no. I mean, it really, it's tough to watch. But I that just floated into my head, and I didn't want to not mention that. Amsterdam is saying something. Mary Kay Cabot was talking all about Schwartz's mental issues prior to the draft. The Browns can't draft. And, that's something that is being talked about again now. It isn't just a physical thing. It's a mental thing with Anthony Schwartz. And we just got to be done with him because he's not a football player. He's a track guy, and just move on. And enough damage done here, and that's that. But yeah, it's Rick May brings up a great name. Yeah. The guy Mike Curtis, guy who flattened a fan who ran out on the field. That was awesome.
Here's another name, Tommy Nobis.
Tommy Nobis of the Falcons. There you go.
That's a quality name there.
That is a quality name.
Look these people up, you youngsters out there.
Yeah, these were the original monster linebackers.
Muddy football. Guys that fucking had no teeth. Yeah.
But I mean, look in his time. Look at Clay Matthews as a good example of a linebacker. And he was mobile.
Yeah.
Clay Matthews could get into the backfield, and the very best of that time. And why am I blanking? Lawrence Taylor from the Giants, right?
Yeah.
A guy who could just get into the backfield and was athletic. We need some speed to keep up with these teams. And, if you think that Joe Burrow is beating everybody by throwing Darryl LaMonica bombs down the field, guess again, Kimosabi. I mean, yes, Jamar Chase is very, very dangerous, but at the same time, Hayden Hurst, before he got hurt, I mean, they're throwing the ball over the middle and getting, 8, 11 yards. I mean, I don't remember like 400 500-yard games from Joe Burrow. No. What I see is the ability to open the field downfield with, Jamar Chase is their great receiver, but T. Higgins also, when T. Higgins came back from the injury, it just made all the difference in the world for the Cincinnati Bengals. But still, a lot of the passes that they catch are not bombs. All right. Yeah. So, whatever the Browns' fetish was about trying to squeeze these ridiculous 4th and 1 plays in, what we have to realize on the defensive side of the ball is that there are teams who are actually capable of playing 4-down football and limiting the number of possessions that your offense gets in a game. Yeah. That's a new way of not just scoring more points, but using more clock. It's and you got to move with the times. It was
absolutely embarrassing that we would have an opening drive, maybe get a field goal, maybe get a touchdown, and then not see the ball for the next 40 fucking minutes.
Well, and you saw those droughts from the Browns where they would score and then it would be like you were saying 30 minutes between points, and you can't win that way in the NFL. You got to come up with points when you get into the range. And Rick May, absolutely right. Ray Nitschke and Sam Huff. What number? 66 and 70. Is that right, Rick? Nitschke was 66 and Huff was 70. That's I'm old, but I'm not dead yet.
No.
And yeah, as far as former President Jimmy Carter, that's tough. But at 98 years of age, he did this, he did that, and he lived it. And I respected Jimmy Carter. There's a greater calling for a lot of people than just aspiring into politics. And I always thought that Jimmy Carter was an honest guy who really was better in public service than he was as a president.
Yeah,
because the situation, I think his conscience was so great that he really hamstrung himself in the hostage crisis, and that killed him. And then we get a simple-minded idiot like Ronald Reagan, who was an actor, for Christ's sake, Death Valley days. And, and since then, I think we've just had a series of,
Oh, it's been all downhill.
Yeah, but I mean, Jimmy Carter was an honest man, but it only proved that honesty is not what gets you anywhere in politics. But, yeah, and I think everybody has the same feeling, Amsterdam, that he was less than a so-so president in a lot of people's eyes. There was a large amount of inflation in the economy, and he had only had the 4 years, and boy, the whole Iran hostage crisis was just a disaster that was poorly handled. That's the and this is a good way of looking at it. A decent guy working in an indecent profession, and I thank you, Rick. That's about as well put as you could put it. But I don't know. There are so many issues. The Greg Newsom story is of concern to me because you just can't draft people that high for a certain skill set and then abandon the skill set in your scheme. Yeah. You just can't do it. And therein lies the problem. And hopefully we'll finally have somebody with experience in there who certain guys are not going to be able to fit in, and other people are going to look a whole lot better in the scheme, and we'll see how it plays out. I have no clue who they're going to be. Defensive linemen, and I'm trying not to get into draft talk. But
I can't really help you there anyway.
I can't help anyone here either. I'm sure that when Derek comes free closer to draft time, Mr. Frisbee will give us his opinions, because I know he lives, dies, eats, and drinks the NFL draft. But there are players from free agency like Javon Hargrave, who knows Jim Schwartz real well, who are potentially available. The problem is the price tag that comes with a lot of these people is going to be really, really tough.
It's a fair question by Rubber City there.
Would anybody in the right mind trade for Denzel Ward with his contract and his injury history? Something, he's been devaluated because of this, and it's, this is another Ohio State story, and I get really bored to tears. Why, and it was like the wide receivers who came out, Cedric Wilson, right?
Garrett Wilson and
Garrett Wilson. I'm sorry, yeah. Garrett Wilson. That's right. And who were the others who came out of that great flock of the three wide receivers? Give me their names.
Oh, there was Wilson and Olave. They got drafted last year. Then there's Smith and Jigba that got hurt last season at Ohio State, who's coming out this year. and then there's Marvin Harrison's Jr.
Junior, yeah.
I think is still coming back to Ohio State. So
Ohio State has had its fair share of good professional football players, but there are also a lot of players who don't necessarily translate. And I believe Olave was hurt a good part of the season.
Well, Olave had a good year, though. I mean, Wilson had the better year, but Olave,
when he played, was good.
Yeah,
and the fact is why the Browns don't pay attention to wide receivers with speed who can actually catch the ball, as opposed to people who play in the fucking SEC and can stand back and watch their running games take over people, and then once in a blue moon get a ball thrown to them.
Yeah, I may be biased. I think I am, but I would say there's more busts coming out of Alabama and Auburn than there is Ohio State. So, but maybe I'm wrong there. But
yeah, R. Jones, I'll tell him that you said so. Derek is a Mrs. Are you suggesting? Oh, Missy.
Yes.
What are you suggesting something? I'm going to tell. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, and no, he's doing his own thing here. We don't poach. People come by their own volition, and when it comes down to draft, I guarantee you, Derek will be around because he has an opinion, and I just am not a big college football fan. So Rubber City is saying that he thinks MJ Newsome could be starting corners. Well,
we need depth. I mean, we have to have the 3-4 guys we got. So
yeah,
they all get hurt, every single one of them.
And that has been, again,
the season's too fucking long.
Yeah, that ain't going to change. And God only knows by the time next season comes around how you're going to be watching these games and how much it's going to cost you to watch them.
Well, I should be okay. I don't think they're going to fuck with the International League Pass that I pay for, but what they're going to do for you guys, God only knows, man. I'll be amazed if you guys still see Cavs games and Guardian games next month. Yeah, with all the shenanigans going on with Spectrum.
Now, what I want to do next is explain something. The name of the show is Why I Won't Miss Kevin Love. And, I'm going against this grain of, for some reason, people want to believe that somehow the old Kevin Love would be reincarnated. And now that he's no longer going to be a Cavalier, everybody is all going spazoid because he's going to become a member of the Miami Heat, who is a direct competitor of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And all the fans are afraid that Kevin Love is just going to rip us a new asshole. Is what it amounts to.
No, he isn't.
But here's the thing that you have to remember. The Miami Heat are not an offensive team. They're a defensively based team. And Kevin Love can't move his feet fast enough, and he's a lousy defensive player. He cannot put out the effort that he did back when he was trying to stop Steph Curry at the end of Game 7.
That was 7 years ago, that game.
That's right.
He's aged. He's old now. He's like the white Greg Oden now.
And, I don't know what fans are all uptight about because he screwed the organization. And I'm just going to put it, there are going to be a lot of reasons people will feel sorry for Kevin Love. All right. But the one thing that I can't get over is that in a situation where the team would have done him well, this guy and the Cavaliers were trying to keep cohesion in their personnel because they were hamstrung. They didn't have the resources to really go out, and get somebody. So what they did instead is they held on to Kevin Love, and then Kevin Love screws them. And I'm sorry, it's the, we were good to Kevin Love, and Kevin Love shit all over us. Literally, after the trade deadline goes bye-bye, he says, I want a buyout. If he'd have done that before, then we would have gotten an expiring contract that could have set the Cavaliers up a little bit better for next year. But no. And so now he wants to play against us after shorting us the expiring contract. Fuck Kevin Love. Fuck him. I don't miss him. He's an idiot. And look, I'll tell you something else. And Rubber City, you know where I'm going with this. If he goes out on the floor and does what he did with the Cavaliers, which is stop playing defense altogether, he's going to get yanked off the court in a heartbeat.
Yeah, he ain't going to make it in Miami doing that.
There aren't enough points that he has left in his quiver that is going to make up for what he gives up on the other end. They can't win that way. He's going to be a little, towel waver on the bench. And you know something? That's where he belongs. I really am happy that this little whiny bitch, which is what he was, all right? He went through all kinds of mood swings with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm a guy who I understand his history. And I understand that he came out with depression issues. I understand all that. But in the end, he fucked us in the ass. He could have gotten what he wanted, and we could have gotten what we needed. Yeah. And he didn't think enough of us to allow us to do that, and then double rubs it in by going against his old team in conference, right? Fuck him. We don't need him, and I highly doubt that the Miami Heat are going to need him.
No.
So, the front office, what the front office knew, R. Jones, was that we didn't have space. Nothing that was going to be done this year is going to make the Cavaliers a better team. We just took on Danny Green because we wanted an additional mentor on the floor. We're in no position. The Donovan Mitchell thing just kind of cleaned us out, and I'm thrilled that we have, Spida. That's great. But we weren't going to make the team substantially better this year. The idea of having an expiring contract in exchange for Kevin Love would put us in a position next year to get stronger. But thanks to Kevin Love and his insistence that, I can't play, trying to turn the tide and say, the organization never let me come back. And it's like, oh, fuck you, you whining little bitch. It's no wonder he's like a cousin of Mike Love of the Beach Boys. Mike Love is a little whiny bitch. It's like, don't forget, I wrote some of the lyrics, to the Beach Boys songs. It's like, she's my little Deuce Coupe. You don't know what I got? It's like, why don't you just grab my dick and stroke it? It's like Brian Wilson is the genius of the band, and Mike Love is the guy who did the fucking frug on stage. Make it stop.
You're on a roll here.
Yeah, they've got genetics going against them. They're assholes.
I think you need Casey Kasem to do that.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Let's do Casey Kasem, because I got this processing now where the bass is pretty good. So I can do Casey Kasem, Welcome America. So this might actually work, Nobody remembers that Mike Love was a total asshole. He was the guy who was doing the frug on the stage while Brian Wilson was writing the hits. Oh, my God. And you know what's amazing? Do you know why, do you know why Mike Love was so angry?
Why was he so angry?
The best songs that Brian Wilson wrote, he wasn't the lyricist. Van Dyke Parks was, and it's really ridiculous if you start looking at the more sophisticated Beach Boys songs. and Mike Love, can you imagine walking in to a studio? Well, and I remember very well Mike Love walking into the recording studio and looking at Brian Wilson and saying, "What is this shit called Good Vibrations?" I mean, honest to God. It's like, God only knows. What the fuck? Mike Love didn't write the lyrics to God Only Knows. Mike Love came in and said, "I don't like all of this orchestration. I just like that surfer sound." It's like, you stupid fuck.
Rick Mays, Scott again in the chat room. Yeah, all Love's pitching was the basis for the title of the album, Pet Sounds. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. The better they got, the angrier he became. And that's really kind of like, Kevin Love really wanted to be a great teammate until he didn't get to play anymore, Fuck him. We're better off without him. And I know the players are going to miss him because he's a fun guy off the court. I understand that. But look, this is a winning business. And, we've got some really good players. And the real problem for the Cavaliers is going to be, how in the hell are you going to get better? How are you going to take that jump when other teams will be taking a jump next year as well? It's going to be really difficult for them.
Well, I'm just looking at the Cavaliers' schedule, and Wednesday, the 8th of March, and Friday, the 10th of March, are 2 games in Miami. So maybe those will be nationally televised now that Kevin Love could possibly be playing against us, if he's not hurt.
Well, I mean, you look at, where the standings are and where they are, and they're about 4.5, 5 games behind us. And the tide can turn real quick in the final 21 or whatever games of the season. But the battle is not with Kevin Love. The battle is winning enough games to keep the 4 seed. And I don't know if we can do that down the stretch. We're going to find out. But I'd be happy just to make the goddamn playoffs, be one of the 6 teams, and not have to deal with that goddamn play-in again, because that didn't work out so well last year. And I really don't want to be put back in that situation again. I don't talk about the All-Star game very much because it's not a game. It's a showcase. It is, to me, the absolute worst example of players filleting themselves is the nicest way that I can put it. I mean, it is the ultimate selfish endeavor. I mean, so Jason Tatum scores an All-Star game record 55 points. The guy jacked up 31 shots, all right?
Yeah.
And he scored 55 points. Donovan Mitchell scored 40 points. All right?
Yeah.
So, but down the stretch, Jason Tatum took every shot. I mean, literally ball hogging. And everybody knew that Jason Tatum wanted to win that MVP award. Everybody knew that was on his mind. But, his mind should be on winning an NBA title. But you see, that's not the point for a lot of these guys. It's like, if you're there to win the slam dunk competition, you're going to do the fanciest, most daring dunk. And people will remember that because it goes onto YouTube and people will watch it for decades. It's me. And the All-Star game is no defense anyway. And scoring 55 points doesn't mean jack shit because Kobe Bryant, they let him score 60 points. Is that how many he scored in the game at the end of his career, where everyone just sat there and played with their nuts every time he shot the ball? I mean, nobody even raised their hands to stop him. So, it's Kobe, let him have it. I mean, if you want that kind of record, it was like the woman who was trying to break the all-time scoring record in NCAA women's basketball history. Do you remember that?
No, I don't know this story.
Oh, this is unbelievable. She was a great scorer, but she tore her ACL before, literally when she was like a basket short of the record. And that was it for her, right?
Yeah, wow.
The next season comes around, and she's crippled and can't play, they do a jump ball, and all the players stood there and let her hobble down the court and put a layup in.
Glad I missed that. Yeah.
I'm not happy that I saw it either. I mean, it's like, I understand that there's disappointment, there's disappointment associated with athletics. And I know that sometimes the ultimate victory, which LeBron James knows about and Jason Tatum, probably never will.
Yeah.
There's something called making the people around you better. And Jason Tatum is in more competition with his own running mate on the court than he is focusing on how to beat the 76ers or the Bucks or anyone else. 55 points doesn't mean anything when nobody's playing defense.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not. Nobody wants to get hurt in an all-star game, so they're just going to just stand
what's
there.
The point of an all-star game? They already got the Harlem Globetrotters. I mean, why don't you just go see the Harlem Globetrotters? Because the bucket trick is still hilarious 60 years later.
It's a lot more entertaining than watching a game that was, 184 to 175 or whatever.
I don't know. No idea.
I mean, it's like, come on. I mean, what are we doing here and why? At least the NFL got it right. It's flag football, baby. There's no reason to watch it, so don't give us any incentive at all. Because there's no reason to watch it. It doesn't count. It doesn't matter. Everybody knows that what the all-star game stupidity does. And I would say that there should be a ceremonial all-star team, but no game.
Yeah,
None of this festivities bullshit. And the reason is, take a look. We're off until Thursday, right? And then all of a sudden they're going to jam all these games in on us in a short period of time. That's how players get injured.
Correct.
That's why teams keep fucking with their rosters and saying, well, these are the injuries. And then people aren't really injured. It's just rest management. I don't get this. It's like, how is that all-star game, besides, of course, money for the owners, how is that more important than keeping your best players healthy? I don't get it. But you're looking at all the teams after the all-star break. Those 21 games are being jammed into a period of time, and then the playoffs begin, and it never stops. And guys are going to be crippled, and that's going to be the end of that. And what's going to determine who gets out of the East and who gets out of the West is going to be largely determined by who goes down and yells the famous Moohead words.
Oh, my leg! My leg!
My leg! My knee!
My leg!
Yeah, wait a minute. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be?
Oh, there he is.
Who's it going to be?
The BCOD.
The Black Cow of Death is looking at you. Giannis. Who's it gonna be? Yep.
We need Mr. Celery. We need Mr. Celery now to.
Now, Mr. Celery's stalking somebody somewhere.
Too far away, huh?
Yeah.
The Moohead barf bag.
Yeah, and then LeBron James is saying, it's time that we prepare our push to make the playoffs. LeBron James, I loved it when Shaq said to him, he was interviewing him, and he said, LeBron, I'm just going to ask you point blank, are you the GOAT? Now, I mean, that's a thankless question now, isn't it? I mean, you can't win.
Yeah.
If he says no, it's like, see, I told you Michael Jordan is, right? If he says yes, what a self-obsessed creep he is. You can't win with that question.
I would have turned it around and says, no, you are Shaq. And with a big wink.
Yeah. So if you would have learned to shoot from further than 2 feet out, you may have had a shot at that big guy. In all seriousness, LeBron's answer was, a lot of great players have played the game. He goes, if you're asking me personally, I do think that I'm the best player who's ever played the game. He goes, but there's also a ton of other great players.
There you go. He could have said Bailey Owl. Bailey Owl.
Bailey Howell. Yeah.
John Havlicek.
Oh, God almighty. I just don't want to do Tommy Heinsohn because my throat will not survive that. So Giannis is getting more testing on his wrist.
Wanking injury.
No, I mean, they're saying it's not serious, right? And I hope that it's not serious because the Bucks have been playing great basketball, and they've really made a great run to get right up there, even with the Celtics. But
R. Jones is tempting the BCOD. You should never do that because it'll come up with some other more horrific.
It won't be Jenny Osmond, R. Jones.
Yeah, dude.
It will be somebody like Raquel Welch went. There's going to be a bunch of people like that who's going to end up falling because of you, R. Jones.
You're such an asshole.
Okay, Timmy, back off. R. Jones is my friend.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I hope nothing's wrong with Giannis, but I can't say with certainty. And Daniel Jones, the quarterback for the Giants, this really kills me too. He's getting a new agent, right?
He needs a new agent.
He needs a new agent because this is it for him. The Giants, a year ago, didn't want to re-sign him. They let him play his fifth year out. And so he's now got himself a little more leverage because he had a better season. And the Giants were like, oh, you can come back. And it's like, well, now you fuckers, you didn't believe in me anyway. I'm getting a new agent, and we're going to see if anybody else wants my mediocre white ass.
Carolina might want him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a place for Daniel Jones. There's a place, for us. Yeah. So Jones had been represented by CAA since leaving Duke in 2019, and now the word is that he is switching over. And let's see who he's joining. Athletes First, which is better than Athlete's Foot, which was another organization that didn't spread as fast as they thought it would.
Fungal.
Now, this story is the kind of thing, and as we're getting to the end of the show, that makes me just want to say, no. There's a couple. No. There's a couple. I'm like, no. Articles here. This one is incredible. Sources say, interviewing for the Broncos defensive coordinator job, Rex Ryan. It's like, oh my God. I was just talking about him like he was dead and in the past and buried.
Rex Ryan? What, the foot guy?
Yeah. I mean, no. Rex is the brother of the foot guy. Yeah. But
track of all of that.
Rex Ryan is the long, silver-haired, crazy-looking bastard who was in Cleveland, who just wanted to run blitzes. And he ran blitzes on like 3rd and 14 and would give up 52-yard touchdown passes. He was a schmuck.
He did.
And and there was never an explanation for this guy. Why is he still bouncing around? I have no idea. Who would interview this guy?
Is he the guy with the hair?
Yeah, he's the guy with the hair, and he looks like an old professional wrestler, and he's goofy. And the Broncos just might as well go to hell at this point, man.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's story 1. 2.
Wow.
Russell Westbrook wants to sign and plans on signing with the Clippers. Who gives a flying fuck about Russell Westbrook?
No one.
I mean, this guy, how many more places does he have to bring down?
I don't know.
So that's just irritating.
There's no place for him. Quick question for the chat room. What musical is A Place for Us from? And that's not actually the title of the song.
It was also a hit for Barbra Streisand.
It was, yes.
Somewhere.
West Side Story, people.
Very good, yes. A good musical.
Yes.
Absolutely. One of my favorite musicals. Oh my. I also love South Pacific.
So wash that man right out of my hair.
And Rent. Oh, I loved Rent.
Yeah.
All right. Enough of that insulting dialect. All right. This will make you wonder why.
It's not going to shake my big moose head, is it?
Yes, your big moose head, and something that's going to things that make me go, Chargers defensive coordinator Ronaldo Hill bolts to rejoin Dolphins Vic Fangio. Now, this is interesting. Why would a defensive coordinator for the Chargers leave and accept a lesser position with the Dolphins?
I don't know. Why would they bolt from the Chargers? I saw what they did with the headline.
Yeah, that was clever. I'll give them that. But I mean, you know what the amazing part of this is? Fangio on Monday confirmed Hill's addition to their defensive staff, but he didn't even comment on what his role would be. So this guy gave up a defensive coordinator position with the Chargers for an uncertain job title.
Wow. That has all the makings of Hugh Jackson.
And even Fangio himself had to explain this. He goes, first and foremost, Ronaldo's a good coach. Really a talented coach with a bright future in the NFL. No. He didn't think so. Not playing with the Chargers. He got the hell out for nothing.
Wow.
Hey, look at this. Bobby Alcott, how you doing, man? Are you okay, buddy? See, you are instrumental in the processing of this microphone. You're getting to hear the microphone processing for the long form talk show format. Oh, this is great. I'm just thrilled that you came here. Bobby, so that you know, yes, he's a Steelers fan.
Well, we can't all be perfect.
But we talk football. But he is a professional singer, and man, is he good. And I ran into him on the karaoke site where he does a lot of stuff, just warm up his voice and that kind of thing. And I was struck dumb and deaf and everything else. It's like, wow, this guy is like head and shoulders above, the mere mortals who are just out here doing, at first I was afraid, I was petrified, that kind of thing. And he does jingle work. He does voiceover work. And it's really interesting. But Bobby just got out of the hospital. I don't know what for, and I don't need to know what for, but I'm thrilled. And I wanted to say, before I get out of here to you, Bobby, I agreed with everything in this as far as the placement of the people in the contest, except one. And I'll message you about that because I don't want to be telling the world about that shit. But still, it's wonderful to see you here, and I'm glad that you're feeling better. That's the important thing.
I think you need to do James Earl Jones to show off the microphone.
James Earl Jones is...
This is CNN.
This is CNN. You just got to get the that bass quality and and that's one of the reasons why I'm not a good singer. It's because it's like somehow with all the songs that are popular, I mean, me trying to sing Toto's Africa.
Oh God, that's a hard song.
Oh my God! I mean, it's like
a difficult song.
To take me away from you.
No, I've been in I've played a big band arrangement of that on saxophone. That is a difficult song with a lot of breaks in it, and odd tempos going against each other. Yeah,
and there's another song by Toto called Pamela that's equally fun to sing. And that was with a different lead vocalist. Who was the guy who sang the high parts for Toto, like on Rosanna? Bobby, I think his name was Bobby too. I forget his last name, but he left the band. And then I think
brothers, but
I think Steve Williams became. That sound right? the lead vocalist for Toto, and he also could hit high notes, but I can't do that. So at any rate, nice of Vic Fangio to plug the guy. Vic Fangio is a real legendary defensive coordinator, which is really great. But I can't imagine why somebody would just give up a defensive coordinator position just to be a quality control coach or something like that. And then if you weren't certain of what trouble the New York Mets are always in, their owner, Steve Cohen, Steve Cohen gives my tribe a bad name. It's like, all they care about is money. It's like, no. But then Bobby Kimball, thanks a lot. That was that's right, Bronk. He was the one who was the original singer, right? And that, very good. I appreciate it. Steve Cohen is a hedge fund owner, and he's got more money than you can imagine. And he came in as the new owner of the Mets and spent this incredible fortune of money. And listen to this quote. New York Mets owner Steve Cohen cautions the team's record spending won't necessarily lead to a World Series this year. It's like, you know how hard it is to get into the World Series, as we saw last year, right? Cohen said as he threw money at the press. So the only thing you can do is put yourself in a position where good things can happen. You got to make the playoffs. Yeah, my God. So if you're in New York and you're a Mets fan, it's not going to become anything but a Yankees town ever. And the Mets are going to keep spending enormous amounts of money as a tax shelter for Steve Cohen. And that is what it's going to be. You'll have great players. Yeah, I mean, you've got great players who are already there, but it takes something more than that and money to win. But I think the Mets have only won two, in 1969 with the Miracle Mets with Tom Seaver, in 1986 also. That was Doc Gooden.
That was Bill Buckner, too, for the Red Sox.
Oh, God. Let's put him in an honorary fashion. Let him play first base for the ninth inning just to reward him for this great career that the cripple was having. All right. So at any rate, it put me in a great mood seeing Bobby in here because it's fun. Singing is fun. This is fun. This is, and I know that Bobby loves mic work too. He's really, I'll tell you one more Bobby story because I sounding like a gushing groupie. This guy's got a microphone that I would kill for.
How big is it?
Oh my God. He's got a Neumann. Now that doesn't mean much to anybody out there, but the few people who know, I mean, you're talking about a multi-$1,000 microphone. I mean, if you want to have good sound, I mean, I'm using a $200 Bluebird microphone. I saw that you said to somebody in the contest, Bobby, we got to get you a better microphone, to Ethan. Get me one too. It's like,
yeah, they kind of started 2,500, the Neumann, or however you pronounce the microphones.
Yeah, the great microphones. And but at any rate, thanks everybody for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. It's always fun doing the program, and you never know who you might run into here. Thanks, and I will see you again. Mike, I can't believe it's Monday already. Well, I'll see you again on Friday, and something will have happened because the Cavaliers will be playing on Thursday, and we'll have a result of that game to talk about.
Well,
so thanks everybody.
Tuesday tomorrow, or as they call it, Morbidly Obese Tuesday.
Morbidly Obese Tuesday. Thank you. I'll remember that. And Bronk, thanks as always. I appreciate you coming in here and giving me moral support and assistance and friendship during these dry sports months.
This is a barren era right now, isn't it?
Yeah. So at any rate, thanks everybody, and I'll see you again on Friday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Moo, moo.
Bye.